Robert Hayes watched his suitcase tumble down the front steps. It struck the pavement, flipped onto its side, and burst open. A white shirt spilled onto the driveway. Nobody moved to help him. Behind Robert, 12 members of his family sat frozen around Madison's dining table. Forks rested halfway to mouths. Wine glasses remained untouched. His daughter stood in the doorway, her face hard. "You've got no money, no house, and nowhere else to go," Madison said, "and I'm tired of pretending you're not a burden." Robert slowly turned toward her. Then Eric, Madison's husband, leaned back in his chair and smiled. "Maybe this will motivate you to get your life together." Robert said nothing, but inside his coat pocket, his fingers closed around something neither of them knew about, a small brass key, and that key opened a box that could change everything. Before we continue, thank you to everyone who keeps returning to support these stories. And if this is your first time listening, welcome. Please like and subscribe so you don't miss the next story. And tell us in the comments, where are you listening from today? Now, back to Robert. 6 months earlier, people would never have imagined him standing outside his daughter's house with his clothes scattered across the driveway. Robert had once lived in a beautiful 4-bedroom home with his wife Helen. They had been married 37 years. Then cancer took her. After the funeral, the big house became unbearable. Every room reminded him of her, so Robert sold it. He moved into a small apartment across town and told almost nobody what he had done with the money. Madison immediately assumed the worst. "You sold the house already?" she had asked. "Yes. And where did all the money go?" Robert had looked at her for several seconds. "It's taken care of." That answer irritated her. From that moment, Madison began treating him differently. She stopped asking for his advice. She complained whenever he visited. And when a pipe burst in Robert's apartment 3 weeks later, forcing him to stay with her temporarily, she made sure he understood that he was a guest. Eric was worse. He loved expensive watches, luxury cars, and reminding people about his growing construction company. At dinner that evening, Eric had been bragging about a massive commercial contract his company was close to winning. "This deal changes everything," he told the family. "We're talking millions." Everyone congratulated him. Robert quietly cut his steak. Then Eric looked across the table. "You wouldn't understand this kind of pressure, Robert." Madison laughed. Robert stopped cutting. He looked at his daughter. She laughed again. Something inside him changed. Not anger, not yet. Something colder. Minutes later, after Robert questioned why Eric had recently fired 3 longtime employees, Madison exploded. That argument ended with his suitcase on the pavement. Now Robert knelt and slowly placed his clothes back inside. His late wife's photograph had fallen between 2 shirts. He picked it up. Helen was smiling at him. Robert whispered, "I tried." Then he stood. Madison was still watching from the doorway. "You'll thank me someday," she said. Robert looked at her for a long moment. "I hope you never understand what you just did." He walked away. 2 blocks later, his phone rang. Robert looked at the caller's name. "Daniel Mercer, corporate attorney," he answered. "Robert," Daniel said urgently, "I found something in Eric's company accounts." Robert stopped walking. "What?" There was a pause. Then Daniel said, "You need to see this before the board meeting." Robert's hand tightened around the brass key. For the first time that night, he smiled. Daniel Mercer was waiting when Robert entered his office the next morning. He did not offer coffee. That told Robert everything. Daniel simply closed the door, placed a thick folder on the desk, and said, "Sit down." Robert remained standing. "What did you find?" Daniel opened the folder. Bank statements, invoices, copies of company checks. Several pages were marked with red circles. "Over the last 14 months, Daniel said, money has been leaving the company through consulting payments. Robert frowned. "How much?" "Just over $800,000. Robert's eyes hardened. "To whom?" Daniel slid one document across the desk. The consulting company was called North Ridge Development Services. Robert had never heard of it. Daniel tapped the bottom of the page. "The company was formed 18 months ago." "And who owns it?" Daniel hesitated. "A woman named Vanessa Cole." Robert looked up. The name meant nothing to him, but Daniel's expression said there was more. "What aren't you telling me?" Daniel reached for another photograph. It had been taken outside a hotel. Eric stood beside a black SUV. His hand rested on the lower back of a woman in a red coat. "Vanessa." Robert stared at the picture. "When was this taken?" "3 weeks ago." Robert slowly sat down. His first thought was Madison. Not the suitcase, not the humiliation. Not Eric's smile, his daughter. She had thrown him out to defend a man who might already be preparing to throw her away. Daniel leaned forward. "There's more." Robert closed his eyes briefly. Of course there is. Eric had been pushing the company toward the largest project it had ever attempted. The contract would bring prestige, investors, and millions in new revenue. But Daniel had discovered that Eric was using inflated projections to make the business appear stronger than it was. If he signs the deal under these numbers, Daniel said, the company could face serious trouble. Robert looked again at Vanessa's photograph. Does Madison know? I doubt it. Robert's jaw tightened. For one dangerous moment, he wanted to call his daughter. He wanted to tell her everything. Then, he remembered the doorway, her voice. You've got no money, no house, and nowhere else to go. But another memory followed. Madison, at 8 years old, asleep on his chest after a thunderstorm. Madison, at 17, crying when her first boyfriend left her. Madison, standing beside Helen's hospital bed, holding her mother's hand. Robert pushed the photograph away. I'm not going to punish my daughter for being blind. Daniel watched him carefully. What are you going to do? Robert stood. Nothing. Daniel blinked. Nothing? Not yet. That afternoon, Eric received an unexpected email. The company's board had requested a complete financial review before approving the new contract. Eric stormed into his office. Who authorized this? His assistant, Claire Bennett, looked nervous. The request came from the majority ownership representative. Eric froze. What majority ownership representative? Claire looked confused. You didn't know? Eric stared at her. Claire slowly turned her computer screen toward him. For years, Eric had believed the largest shareholder in his company was an investment firm called Hayes Capital Holdings. He had never bothered to ask who was behind it. Now, for the first time, he opened the original investment documents. His eyes moved down the page, then stopped. The signature at the bottom made the color drain from his face. Robert Hayes. Eric stood so quickly his chair struck the wall, and at that exact moment, his phone began to ring. The caller was Robert. Eric stared at Robert's name on his phone. For 3 rings, he did nothing. Then he answered. What do you want? Robert stood beside the window of his small apartment, calm enough to make Eric nervous. I wanted to make sure you received the request for the financial review. Silence. Then Eric laughed. It was forced. So this is what this is about? Madison throws you out, and suddenly you decide to interfere with my company? Robert looked down at Helen's photograph on the table. Your company? Eric stopped laughing. Robert continued. You might want to read those ownership documents more carefully. The call ended. Eric immediately called Madison. By that evening, Robert was standing outside her house again. This time, his suitcase was not with him. Madison opened the door but refused to let him inside. Why didn't you tell me? She demanded. Tell you what? That you own Eric's company. Robert shook his head. I don't own all of it. You control it. Her voice cracked. Eric says you've been waiting for years to take everything from him. Robert stared at his daughter. And you believe that? Madison folded her arms. He said you're angry because I asked you to leave. Robert almost smiled at the absurdity. Madison, I invested in that company 7 years ago. She froze. 7 years ago, Eric's construction business had been days from collapse. Robert had quietly supplied the money that kept 32 employees from losing their jobs. Eric had known an investment group saved him. He simply never cared enough to discover who stood behind it. I did it because you loved him, Robert said. Madison's expression changed for half a second. Then Eric appeared behind her. Don't listen to him. Robert looked past Madison. Eric's face was pale, but his voice remained confident. He's trying to break us apart. Robert reached into his coat. Eric stiffened. Robert removed the photograph Daniel had shown him. Vanessa Cole. The hotel. Eric's hand on her back. Madison stared at it. What is this? Eric grabbed the photograph. A business meeting. Robert said nothing. Madison looked from Eric to her father. Is there something else? Robert could have told her everything. The missing money. The consulting company. The payments. But he saw fear in her eyes. If he pushed too hard, Eric would turn that fear against him. So Robert simply said, "Ask your husband who owns Northridge Development Services." Eric's face changed. That was enough. Robert walked away. The next morning, Claire Bennett entered the company office and discovered her computer access had been disabled. Eric was waiting beside her desk. "You've been sharing confidential information." Claire's stomach dropped. "I haven't shared anything." "You're suspended." Eric watched security escort her from the building. Then he entered his office and began deleting files, invoices, emails, bank records, anything connected to Vanessa. By noon, Daniel called Robert. "We have a problem." Robert was already driving toward the company. "What happened?" Eric wiped the internal accounting folders. Robert's grip tightened on the steering wheel. And Claire, suspended. For the first time, Robert felt the plan slipping away. Without the financial records, accusations were only accusations, and Eric knew it. That evening, Eric gathered several senior managers and announced that Robert was an angry father-in-law attempting a hostile takeover. By morning, rumors had spread through the entire company. Robert Hayes was bitter, unstable. Vindictive, Madison called him once. Her voice was cold. "Dad, please stop." Robert closed his eyes. "Madison, if you ever loved me, stay away from Eric and stay away from the company." She hung up. Robert remained alone in silence. For several minutes, he wondered if winning would cost him his daughter forever. Then someone knocked. When Robert opened the door, Claire Bennett stood outside holding a small black flash drive. "I thought Eric might do something like this," she said. Robert stared at the drive. Claire held it out. "So 3 months ago, I started making copies." Eric walked into the boardroom smiling. The biggest contract of his career was scheduled for approval that morning, and despite everything Robert had tried, Eric believed he had won. Then he stopped. Robert Hayes was sitting at the head of the table. Claire Bennett sat 2 seats away. Daniel Mercer stood beside a projector, and Madison was standing near the window. Eric's smile disappeared. "What is this?" Robert calmly placed the old brass key on the table. It was the same key he had held the night Madison threw him out. "This," Robert said, "is the meeting you should have prepared for." Eric looked around the room. "I'm CEO. You can't ambush me like this." Robert opened a folder. "Hayes Capital Holdings owns 51% of this company. That gives me controlling interest." Whispers moved around the table. Eric's face reddened. "You hid behind a company name." "No," Robert replied. "You never bothered to ask who saved you." Daniel turned on the projector. The first document appeared. Payments to Northridge Development Services. Then another. Then another. Hundreds of thousands of dollars. Eric pointed toward Claire. "She stole those files." Claire stood. "No. I copied records I was authorized to access because I became concerned about unexplained payments." Daniel displayed the company registration. Owner, Vanessa Cole. Madison stared at Eric. "Tell them she's just a consultant." Eric swallowed. "She is." Robert nodded toward Daniel. The next image appeared. Eric and Vanessa outside the hotel. Then emails, plans for an apartment, messages discussing money, and one sentence that caused Madison to cover her mouth. "Once the contract closes, I'll have enough put aside to finally leave Madison." "No," Madison whispered. Eric stood quickly. "Those messages are being taken out of context." Robert looked at him. "Then perhaps the bank transfers will provide context." Daniel revealed the backup files Claire had preserved. The room went completely silent. Eric's own records showed company funds moving through Northridge. Enough evidence existed for the board to freeze his authority and refer the matter for an independent investigation. Eric turned toward Robert. "So this is revenge?" Robert stared at him. "No." His voice remained quiet. Revenge would have been destroying this company just to destroy you. 32 families depended on this business when I first invested. Hundreds depend on it now. He pushed a resolution across the table. You are suspended as CEO, effective immediately. Eric's chair scraped backward. You can't do this. Robert looked directly at him. You once told me losing everything might motivate me to get my life together. Eric froze. Nobody laughed. Security escorted him from the room. But Robert felt no joy watching him leave, only sadness, because his daughter was crying. Later, Madison found Robert alone in the conference room. I'm sorry, she whispered. Robert did not immediately answer. Then Daniel returned, carrying one final folder. There's something Madison should see. Inside were years of payments, a medical bill Robert had quietly covered, a car repair, part of Madison's mortgage during Eric's worst business year, insurance payments, even the money that had kept Eric's company alive. Madison stared at the pages. You did all this? Robert nodded. Your mother and I agreed that helping family didn't need applause. Madison began crying harder. And I called you a broke old man. Robert looked toward the window. You did. Can you forgive me? Robert picked up the brass key. It opened the small safe deposit box containing the original investment documents. Once, the key had represented everything he kept hidden. Now Robert placed it in Madison's hand. I can forgive you, he said. But forgiveness doesn't mean pretending nothing happened. Madison nodded. She understood. Months later, the company survived under new management. Eric never returned as CEO, and the financial investigation continued without Robert interfering. Madison eventually separated from him. Her relationship with her father healed slowly, not through money, but through Sunday dinners, uncomfortable apologies, and time. Robert never moved back into a large house. He liked his modest apartment. One evening, Madison visited and noticed Helen's photograph beside the window. You think Mom would be disappointed in me? Robert looked at his wife's smiling face. She'd tell you to learn from it. Madison smiled through tears. And you? Robert looked at his daughter. I already told you. He reached across the table and squeezed her hand. You were never supposed to know how much money I had. He paused. You were supposed to remember who I was. And for the first time since Helen died, Robert felt that something broken in his family might finally be worth rebuilding. The end.